I'll call the meeting to order. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will, am I on? Yeah? Okay, good. We will go ahead and move through, there's no one here for open forum, so we'll go ahead and move to approval of today's agenda. It is an action item. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Move on now to consent items. This is an action item.
I will be abstaining from voting on the consent item since I have a relative in the movement list.
Thanks, Bruce.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent items.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we will move on to reports. Superintendent Wagner.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Chair, directors, no student representatives yet, and Ms. Seeger, great to see you, teacher representative, good to see you, and community. So it's exciting to, as we launch this school year, really moving forward with our strategic plan, and tonight I'll read our vision, which is inspiring learners and cultivating growth to positively impact our community. And we're looking forward to that journey beginning this week. So with that, I just want to welcome back our students and our staff for another amazing year, but also as a reminder to our community as well as staff and all that, you know, it is important to slow down and specifically pay attention to our safety precautions at our buildings, the student drop-off, student pickup, also our bus stop arms, and just really slow down and be cognizant of the fact that we have students that are walking, we have parents that are traveling through. So let's just slow down and ensure that our precious cargo get to school safely and return home safely. We did speak with our transportation staff last week and welcomed them back and really centered them around. They are our delivery specialists, and they really bring our special cargo to us safely as well as return them home. So let's just slow down and pay attention to the safety precautions. Just a couple reminders. We have elementary conferences that took place last week. They were taking place today as well as at Southwest Middle School. At Southwest, they were lined up at the door early. It was nice to see. And then knowing that our elementaries were just bursting at the seams with smiling faces as well. 8th grade orientation, looking forward to that. It'll be exciting to get our 8th graders welcome back. They always do some exciting and fun activities with our 8th grade learners. And then on Wednesday, we welcome our students back, and knowing that they'll be walking through our doors with smiling faces, and we need to ensure that that is a constant throughout the school year. And then finally, I just wanted to bring this to the board. This is extremely exciting, and I want to compliment. We have, not only did Ashley and Tanya, Executive Director Frank Matson, work through this, but we also have Danny who worked on the backside, and this is an amazing postcard that went out to our families. Essentially, we want you back. We talked last week that our enrollment is increasing, but also we need to continue to ensure that the message is out there, we want our families back. So it talks about the different elements that Albert Lee Schools are able to provide, and then also a QR code for registering. So it's some exciting opportunities to continue to reach out to our families and open the doors for our families. We even had a lot of families register today, so it's really rewarding to see our families continue to choose Albert Lee. That's my report. Thank you.
There we go. All right, Neil, let's start with you. Coming off vacation.
Right, I spent the last week dancing with waves in Delaware, and that gets to be a routine after a while. But it was refreshing, and walking up and down the beach is kind of like walking by various strata of society, because you have different areas where they're public and then they're kind of shared, and then there are people who own these mansions, and it's kind of an interesting exposure to how a lot of people live. Before I left, Dave and I attended a summer conference, which, as always, all of these conferences are very interesting. Cafeteria of various studies that we could engage. And the three keynote speakers were, one of them was on the staff of MSBA. The other two weren't. Dr. Phil Gore was the opening keynote speaker, and his message had to do with the governance model and how school boards can really make a difference with student success and with student achievement by adopting policy and all sorts of avenues that we don't have time to get into. Dr. Terry Morrow, with whom the board met a couple weeks ago in our retreat session, his topic was policy and what the proper procedures and most advantageous approach that boards can take in determining policy. And Terry does a very good job. And I know the one thing that's jumped out at me, the way these round table sessions where tables are supposed to come up with some ideas that collectively the people at the table determined, and the topic this time was who should be consulted in determining policy, and I wanted to scream, you might consider asking students. Nobody else mentioned that. I didn't want to rock the boat, so I didn't say anything. The final keynote speaker at the end of the conference was a very interesting fellow, and I really got a lot from Dr. Son Sam. He is an immigrant. His family immigrated from Cambodia, and he was involved, his family, not he, was a little baby at the time during a horrendous Pol Pot regime in Cambodia, which was toward the end of the Vietnam War. And his story was really intriguing, and his thesis was a favorite one of mine. Every child within their person contains a unique sort of genius or brilliance. Every child is brilliant. And it's our job to tap into that and to use that brilliance as a vehicle so that that child can learn those sort of canned things that we have to offer to them. If we just try to stuff that down their throat without accessing that genius that lies within, more often than not, the result isn't good. And I'm a huge favorite of that approach. He quoted a line I think comes from Albert Einstein. It goes something like this: everything that can be counted does not necessarily count. Everything that counts cannot necessarily be counted. And you know, that's very true. Now, obviously, we need to count. You know, we need to assess students, but we need to be careful about that and make sure that we're not missing some things that perhaps really count that can't be counted. All right, Education Foundation. I missed that meeting because I'm not really, well, it wasn't possible. I attended the last board meeting, sort of, remotely. Kim would know more about that. A couple things. Of course, the October 10 reception Pathways to Success is coming up, and the plans for that are underway. I'm not panicking yet, but I'm on the edge of panic because all of those things that need to be done are, but it's coming along nicely. And we also, the board passed a resolution to assist Southwest students in attending the rendezvous. So that's it for me.
All right, I don't have any committee meetings to report, but I did attend the staff Welcome Back last Wednesday, which many here were at also. And I can see why Wendy Greenfield was named Teacher of the Year, because her speech was very good, very fun to listen to, and it was just a great presentation. And I'm excited to greet students on Wednesday morning. I'll be at Halverson, that'll be fun. And I'm probably the only school board member on the planet that can say this is actually my first day of school. So I'm very excited for that as a former homeschool student. Anyway, great idea. I love that we're in the schools a little bit more than we have been, and I hope that continues. So thank you.
Yeah, I'll be joining staff at Hawthorne. I do appreciate the chance to have the tour last week of the facilities. Now having been in Halverson and Hawthorne, just to see those safe, secure entryways is pretty reassuring that we've got some systems there in place. So that's my report. Oh, I also attended the Education Foundation meeting last week, too.
Dave?
It was fun to walk in tonight to see the smiling faces and the little ones going in and out of the doors, and just realizing that, yes, it is time to be back. Summer's over, girl. But it looked fun. It was a reminder of the good things that happen. Neil did a great job at the summer conference. Just a couple things we did at the board meeting for MSBA. Talked about a lot of different style of issues, but we talked for some time about the possibility of the fund running out for the reimbursement that we've
Well, I attended the Summer Help Custodian Appreciation Luncheon. It was fun to be there. There are 2 custodians left that I hired, so it's fun talking to them. So one of them got a 25-year recognition at the opening ceremonies. And if every building looks like Hawthorne, you notice how it shined and everything. If every building looks like that, boy, we're in great shape. The Summer Help did a good job. Then Superintendent Wagner and I attended the Fremont County Collaborative meeting. The county board finally approved the coordinator position that we've been trying to get for the last couple of years. The job's been posted. So we're hoping that individual can really push the collaborative forward and to help more kids and families. So we're excited about getting a coordinator for that position. And then I met with Paul and Dave at the field house. We're looking at doing something different in that big room upstairs that overlooks the football field and stuff. We came up with the idea to recognize the history of our programs, maybe starting back at the first football team with pictures and memorabilia and whatever we can get, trophies, to the present day. But try to hit all the, when did Title IX come into, when was the first girls' track meet or soccer game or whatever? So we plan on doing that. We plan on doing the legwork this year, and I'm sure some of you, I know Neil, you're gonna be involved. You probably don't know if you're gonna be involved. The legwork is gonna be done this year with hopefully the construction or the work over the summer next year and have it ready for the start of school. So it should be an exciting project, and it should be great use of that space. That's all I have.
That sounds wonderful, Bruce. Thanks for your work on that, and thanks for volunteering, Neil. I did attend the Education Foundation meeting, and just a little some additions to Neil. The board is working on additional ways that we can leverage the donations we get to bring back funds to the students. And so whether that be through the PAWS program or the teacher grants or things like that. So there's some administrative things through CDs and things that we're trying to work through that. And then also how we can support that Promise Scholarship. So look to hearing more about that. We also talked about just the structure of the Education Foundation and what that looks like. And hopefully we'll have some announcements that way in coming months. I attended the kickoff meeting and was able to award those teacher grants, which is so cool. And I almost said 68,000. I think I might have, and I corrected myself. So it was $6,800 that were awarded. And then I think we're going to get a presentation soon from Mr. Halverson, but I did go on and download the app to my phone, so I'm halfway there because of the infomercial that you shared with us. And looking forward to being at Southwest on Wednesday to greet students and faculty and everyone there. And I think that's it. So we will move on to Kristen Seeger, our ALE teacher report today.
So, Superintendent Wagner already talked about the open houses and the conferences and all the things that are happening in our schools. Really, we haven't really had time to have things happen yet, so I don't have a ton to share, but I do want to share that the enormous rollout of new furniture for elementary was successful, and the classrooms look fantastic, the furniture looks great, and it's really nice to see all of that updated. So thank you for all of that. That's it.
Thanks, yes, that, we got to see some of that furniture and it was pretty special, so. Moving on to 6.5, Board Chair Statement. Ron Wagner, Superintendent of School District 241, was given his annual review by the school board in closed session on Monday, July 15th, 2024. Superintendent Wagner's evaluation centered around student support, community support, and communication. The superintendent continues to develop in these areas with administrative and board support. We will move on now to Curriculum and Instruction 8.1. Mr. Halverson.
All right, good evening, Board Chair Nelson, school board members, Superintendent Wagner. I think Neil kind of started me off a little bit when he said that there are things that count but cannot be counted. And that is a bit of what I'm going to share tonight, is looking at what we've done with some of the areas to better connect and to better communicate with our community at large. So whether it's the stakeholders, community members, parents, coaches, staff, teachers. I'm going to share with you aspects of the website and the new design that's involved with that. The Tigers Unite app, which is the public-facing side. The staff side of that is what's called the ThrillShare platform. And then also I'm going to talk about the new Facebook page that we have created to go along with this change. So. Darcy, I can't switch. I know. Looks like it was on the last page. All right, good deal. All right, first I'm going to start with a quick tour of the website. This is not something I'm sure that's new to you, but I just wanted to point out a few things that were done with some intention. First, Darcy, can you go control minus one time? Control. Looking at the visuals, that was one thing that really stands out with a lot of school districts and a lot of websites in general is that we have the capacities for a lot better visuals with the various tools, and all of us have a pretty high-powered, well, many of us have a high-powered camera in our hands at all times, and looking at how can we go ahead and provide some of that visual for the general public that's out there. For a lot of the general public, the website is their initial visit to the Albert Lea area schools, whether it's a family that's learned that they're going to be moving to Albert Lea, or a family considering enrolling, or possibly a prospective employee that's looking at their options and wanted to say, hey, what do we have here? So we've got some options here to tackle some of those things on the right-hand side. And then, of course, as I shared with you, just a variety of visuals to kind of tell our story. And then down below, this is an area that is more of a showcase scenario to look at what are some of the areas. Now, this happens to be our district homepage, and you can see a variety of different things here. If I click on, as an example, this information about the high school, another narrative pops up, and then it provides an invite to go ahead and join or click on to the high school website. And this same template that I'm sharing with you is this template that exists on all of the school websites. So each elementary site will have their own custom site to themselves, but the same general template will exist. And then below that, we've got what's called the live feed. And this is something that is tied into that Tigers Unite app and that Thrillshare platform that I just talked about. And we'll revisit that in just a little bit. This has been another big push, is the calendar piece of it. We have worked hard with our building secretaries and administrative assistants to go ahead and tie in our calendar system that each building has, and then sync that with the district website. So you'll note that each of these events here happen to have some kind of identifying marker or an abbreviation in front of it to clarify where an event is happening. As we know, a high school event is pretty singular to the high school, as that we only have one, but we do have multiple elementaries, as we know, and so looking at how can we go ahead and just confirm. It just so happens that we happen to, in this case, have back-to-school conferences at all the different elementaries, but in situations where maybe one elementary has possibly a school play, we'll want to make sure that we designate where that school play will take place, so that if somebody from the community wants to go and participate in that school play opportunity, they'll have a chance to do that. So basically, anything that's an opportunity for the general public to visit our schools will be on this calendar. And then down below is what's called the Tiger Experience. This is generally meant to be more of like a, I kind of call it like a yearbook scenario, where you can tell stories of various things. For example, a little information about our success that our students experienced at the yearbook, I guess I'll call it convention, might be the word for it, that we heard from last spring. And this can be seasonal and adjusted as time, as the year goes on, and looking at those kinds of things. So that is kind of the lion's share of that. And then I'm going to switch over and just pull up an example. Let's see. I think I talked with Zach today, and you may have noticed these pop-ups are popping up. A lot of families this time of the year, they want to know where their supply lists are at. Well, this pops up right away along with the district calendar, and this will sunset here in about a week or so, where families don't need to see this. And if somebody's visiting the site for quite a few times, they just click here and it doesn't show up anymore. But again, looking for how do we make it a better experience for our community and our families to understand and know where things are at. Again, you'll see that same format, but here's a situation here where Mr. Kruger took a picture and put this this little blurb together just to say, hey, back to school conferences have been amazing, welcoming our students and caregivers back, and that I love seeing all the smiles as students return. So this is a chance for, he's right there in the moment, sent that out, and that automatically populates onto the website. Yes, okay. Some of you have already downloaded, as we've heard tonight, the Albert Lea Tigers Unite app, and this is a new platform for the school district. There's a lot of different opportunities for communication platforms, and our overall goal is to go ahead and unify and bring all of that onto one platform. We've got a variety of different methods and means that we communicate and have communicated in the past with families and our caregivers and community members and so forth. This is an opportunity for us to bring all that, generally speaking, into one scenario, one app, and so forth. So primarily, it's divided up into two main categories within the app. One main category is the rooms category. Now, you might just think of this as classrooms. So this would be an opportunity for, let's say, a third grade teacher to then have all of the students in that classroom and their parents and caregivers would be tied into that third grade classroom. And they would have the parent or family, community members, the family or caregivers would have a unique alphanumeric code that would invite them to get specific to their students' information. And so throughout the day, throughout the week, or what have you, it's an opportunity for the teacher to reach out to that parent or caregiver, possibly in a kind of a private one-to-one communication, and send out a message. Maybe there's something at school that took place that they wanted to inform the caregiver about, and say, hey, we just wanted to let you know in case there's a question at home. Be happy to talk more about with you later. Or possibly an entire classroom message that goes out in the form of an announcement to say, hey, we've got our field trip on Thursday. Don't forget to, pack an extra sweatshirt as it looks to be kind of chilly and that kind of thing. As you'll note by the items on the screen there, class resources, such as possibly at the high school level, maybe a class syllabus, kind of give some outlines there. A parent can go and look at that and see what's coming up, what are they going to be studying, what have they studied, and that kind of thing. It also provides the option for, let's say a parent were to message into a teacher, and there is a read option, so a read receipt option. So both parties, whether it is a parent or a teacher, can read, can have access, or they can see, was my message received, or is it possibly just hasn't been received yet? Because we always want to make sure that we're communicating in a timely fashion with our families as a classroom teacher, going back and forth. Additionally, there's opportunities for other collaboration to get others involved. Let's say there's a co-teacher, and there's just, the app is pretty flexible with some of those things. And then, as I mentioned, there's two parts to it. The one is the Rooms app, and the other is the school app. And as you can see, this is more of a social media wall, shall we say, within the app with a feed. So, for example, if you were to take your, not that you have to now, but if you were to look at that Lakeview feed, you'll see Mr. Kruger's announcement on there on the app as well. There's different events, like we can send something out district-wide. For example, I have an example that I'll share with you in a bit that I sent out to all, from my ThrillShare account, I sent it to all of the different school apps, shall we say, or the different sites, as well as it synced with the district Facebook page and our website. So in a matter of about a minute and a half, not even that, you can put together a quality message with some needed information and get that out there in a timely fashion. And this is a big change as it relates to how communication has occurred in the past. It was a little bit more chunky, choppy, just because it wasn't all unified and the system wasn't in place to bring it all together. So very excited about what this will do as far as efficiencies and keeping everybody up to date as best we can. I did mention a new Facebook page, and very excited that we are looking at the number right now, 849 followers now, and this is less than a week since we have posted this. One of the main drivers for this was just simply to have, this is the part of the Meta business account of Facebook, which allows us the ability to go ahead and sync with this new app, the Tigers Unite app, to go ahead and sync the messages that we're sending out, as well as go ahead and the app, of course, syncs with our website. So it's really nice having that function to get the message out in the app, to get the message out in the app and the website, as well as the Facebook page. So it's we're pretty excited about that, what we have as far as the communication piece of it going forward, to keep everything as best we can, keep everybody updated, and share the stories and the good news and the events that are taking place within our schools, because we can always be doing a better job of that. I think that be happy to take any questions.
Jeff, but the users of the app, they'll get a notification of
Thank you.
new
Yes.
content, or?
Yeah, as you may have different levels of familiarity with your phone, there's an opportunity to turn on the notifications. And so, yes, it will provide you the opportunity to turn on your notifications. So if there is a message that comes out or an update, that will show as however your phone does notifications.
basically the building principals, the administrator.
Great.
have their own site?
Thank you, great question. Yes, classroom teachers have the opportunity to post something, but the system is set up in what's called a moderator format. And so let's say that a teacher has let's say the fire department is there visiting their class, and they're there, and it's an exciting time, and it's a great picture, great little story. Classroom teacher can put that together, send that out, but what happens is it hits the principal's app first, and then they look at it, and then they green light it, and then it goes out into the world from the principal. So it provides that opportunity for our classroom teachers to share the stories of what's taking place in their classrooms, but yet it still provides some safeguards as it relates to what we have going on, just the safeguards that happen it's all within our umbrella. And speaking of safeguards, we're also going to be using this with our student athletes. And so our coaches are getting trained on this as well. And we're in a bit of a transition period right now. So there's a combination of GroupMe that some of the teams are using, which is an app that's used for some of these mass communications. But as we get going with this on a more full-time basis, as far as more and more parents and family members get access to this, and our coaches have a better chance to get going, and we have a new season starting, this will be the go-to. And so activities director Langrud and I have been working very close together, and this provides an app that our lead coaches in each of the teams can be sending out messages in a platform that we have pretty good access to and control of. So activities director Langrud can go ahead and in essence, hop into a team and just look at the communication cycle and that kind of thing. So we're excited about that as well, and Activities Director Langrud is over the moon about this possibility for what this is going to do for our coaches and our families.
How live is live? If Mr. Kruger wanted to host a parent celebration, he
Yeah.
could just post it like that, or it's still through a review process?
Thank you. If the person doing the posting is a permission level poster, it's less than a minute. Every platform I've talked about, it's pretty impressive.
Go ahead.
So suppose I'm looking for a theater production that's going to be presented at Halverson, but I have no idea when it is. Is there some search mechanism that I can discover events that are coming up without having to scroll through the whole calendar?
Yes, thank you. In that situation, what you would do is you would open up your app, and then the term is organization, which is basically the schools. You open up the organization, drop down, you would go down to Halverson Elementary, and then what you would do is you would then go through the calendar at Halverson. Now, on the face of it, that sounds like, well, that's kind of daunting, but the flip side of it is the calendar events that are on the app are just the events that we're inviting our general public to. Okay, so that there's not a lot of general open invitation public events within that situation, and so you could find that on a relatively quickly basis, yes. But at the flip side of it is, that's part of the onboarding and the training that we need to take place on our end as we are getting our staff up to speed on some of the nuances of, okay, let's make sure we're updating the calendar and pushing this stuff out. And so that's probably going to be a little bit of the learning curve for us as an organization, but that is very possible, yes.
This reminds me a lot of something we had a long time ago at the high school called Grade Quick, which had remarkable potential, but there were 2 or 3 people on the staff that actually made use of it to the extent that they could have, especially including coaches. And you could put so many things out there, but it will take a lot of training to get everybody up to speed so they can realize the full potential of what's out there for them.
Yeah, the nice thing about it is this app is used in over 4,000 districts across the country, so we are not their first, shall we say, client. And so this has been perfected and refined over the years, and it is a highly intuitive app. For example, let's say if a teacher were to a parent were to walk into a classroom and maybe for whatever reason they got a new phone or something happened, and long story short, they needed to get access to, hey, can you get me back on there? Within a matter of like 30 seconds, the teacher logs in, punches in the student's name, and then up pops an alphanumeric code that is specific to that student, and that parent could either just copy that down or they can print that off and take that home, and they would get access to it right away. The original push that went out to families went out in the form of a email and a text message. So as long as the email or text message, as long as the email address or the phone number that the text message was assigned to in our database was the email or the phone number that they were looking for, as long as those two were there, that link was sent out last week.
Angie?
I'm not necessarily asking for this to happen, but just curious, with the ThrillShare app, is that something, or the platform, is that something that would make sense for school board members to participate in and share content and maybe have the chair approve or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's probably a conversation to explore. You know, one of the unique things about the app is that a class has to exist in our student management database for there to be some kind of a platform. And so that's one of the nuances, and one of the protections of it is to have a class actually exist within the student database. So I don't know really how that would work.
Yeah, mine's a little bit along that lines, but a little different. In the calendar, because they're public events, should we be listing all of the school board meetings in the calendar?
Yeah, that'd be great. You know, that is an excellent point. Our calendars right now are simply the school-specific building calendars, but now that you mention that, we do not have a school board calendar, so we can certainly have that created. Thank you.
These are some great suggestions, and thank you for the presentation. And I've heard from the board as well as from teachers as well, and the community. Communication is essential, and we know that that is something that's ever evolving. And when we need to stay present, we need to stay current. And I think that staying current is important, from having a high-quality website to really meeting the needs of our staff and our community, our families and our caregivers is extremely important. So we will continue to move forward with this. We'll enhance what we're doing, and I think there's better things to come. But I believe it's high quality and a great opportunity to continue to move forward in partnership with our staff and community.
Thank you, Executive Director, for your work.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, moving on to 9.1, effective and efficient operations, superintendent salary for 2024-25 school year. This is an action item, and presenting is Executive Director Mattson.
Good evening, Chair Nelson, School Board Directors, and Superintendent Wagner. On tonight's agenda, as an action item, is the Year 3 salary for Superintendent Wagner for the 24-25 school year. As requested by the board, Big 9 superintendent base salaries and statewide data by region with like size enrollment was provided to the school board for review. I would like to yield the floor back to the chair.
As I stated, this is an action item, so I would ask for a motion.
Second?
Motion by Neil, seconded by Gary. Any discussion? Dave?
First question, Ashley, I just noticed when you sent these out, we didn't have Wasika on here. Are they not in our region? It's in enrollment and base salary numbers. I didn't see Wasika on there. And I understand Blue Earth and Fairmont, they're smaller, but Wasika didn't show up, and Waconia did, and Detroit Lakes and some of that. So that's the reason I was curious at why they didn't.
Sure. And that data that is compiled through the state is dependent on if the district submitted their salary information into that database.
So
But we
then
could-
they probably didn't report it to the state?
Correct.
Being a public document, you would think they would have reported it to the state. That's the reason I was surprised when it wasn't
Sure.
possibly reported, so.
And, yep, and that is information I can provide.
Dave?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay, Angie?
Now it's on, okay. No, I took the information from Ashley, which was very appreciated, and I was curious what the average cost per student is in the area, so I plugged the numbers into my own spreadsheet, and if we took Albert Lee out and looked at the neighboring schools that were listed, the average cost per student for the superintendent's salary was $45. Rochester brings that down quite a bit because they have a very high number of students. Their average is actually $13 per student. So I was taking that out too, because I think that is fair to not compare us to Rochester. And if we do that, the average dollar amount per student for the superintendent salary is $50. And what we're looking at is actually $60. So it seems like we started out very high, and that might be just fine. I am struggling with this a little bit just because we've had some staffing cuts and some other things I'm just watching carefully. So I am planning to vote no, and that's my reasoning. So.
I just have a follow-up for Angie. Can you tell us what schools you used to do that comparison?
They were the same ones that Ashley had provided, and they were Austin, Owatonna, Faribault, Winona, Rochester, which I had backed out of the numbers, Mankato, Northfield, and Red Wing.
Thank you. Dave, did you have another question?
Yeah, just a comment, things I wanted to say that, just to make sure that people understand that tonight's not a personal vote, it's more of an inflationary style vote than
Kimberly?
Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I plan to vote in favor, and partly because I looked at the salaries of districts with comparable size, and our salary seems to be in line with those school districts. The other thing I look at is that over the past year, under the leadership of our superintendent, we've addressed site security with the hiring of an additional resource officer, of which I think no one disputes there was a need to do that. You take a tour of our facilities, that's not done in a vacuum. It's done under the leadership of a superintendent. So I'm impressed with our facilities. I look at the e-communication improvements we just had a presentation on. Again, that does not happen in a vacuum. It happens under the leadership of the superintendent. And I also don't want us to forget that we just gone through a strategic planning effort that was very inclusive, that was led in a large part to our superintendent. So I can think of a lot of reasons why we should approve a salary increase. Plus, we've given every other bargaining unit in this district an increase in salary. So I'm voting in favor.
Any other comments before I get back to Dave? Go ahead, Dave.
Just again, I want to mention, Gary, this isn't a performance review.
Right, I know.
And so if we add that, then we should almost add everything all around, and I'm not gonna do that tonight. And I'm just saying that, when we look at fiscally, and it is, I mean, it's an inflationary thing, which we did do, it is in the middle of a contract. We did leave this third year wide open to do exactly what we're doing now, so.
Yep.
And that's why we did that, because
Oh.
again, it is 2 years, it's a big learning curve. So, that's it.
Any other comments? I will add some comments around that fiduciary responsibility piece. So we've seen, we're within the 12% fund balance that we as a board directed this district to adhere to. And we also are noticing some enrollment numbers increasing. So those aren't people that's position, or not, that's not an individual person. But I also believe that we did do increases across the board for our bargaining units and should do so accordingly. Any other comments? Go ahead, Neil.
I appreciate everything that everyone has said, and I don't disagree with any of you. But in terms of paying salaries, it seems like that's something that nobody likes to do, including taxes. I like paying. If somebody works in the farm, I really like paying them as well as I can in reward for what they do. And I would assume that probably some of our bargaining units don't enthusiastically, jubilantly suggest that they have the greatest settlement in the world, but they're pretty good. And I don't think we have any people out there that are under the impression that we're doing everything we can to pay them as little as we can. I think that as long as we have the means, we should reward the people that work for us happily and as abundantly as we can. And if you get what you pay for, and if you fall behind, then it just gets harder to catch up in the future. And as long as we have in the past had decent settlements and we have maintained our fund balance, I don't see any reason to change the course now.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, we will take,
Call on it.
yep, sure will. Darcy, will you do roll call, please?
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Platch?
Nate?
Chair Nelson?
Aye.
Director Schiller?
Aye.
Director Hoffman? Nay. Director Swart?
Vote passes 4-2. I want to thank everybody for your work and your questions and your comments. Moving on to 9.2, policies for review. I believe, Executive Director Franks is joining Executive Director Mattson for these.
Good evening again, Chair Nelson, School Board Director, Superintendent Wagner. For tonight, we have a second reading of 3 policies. Policy 507.5 regarding school resource officers, Policy 503 regarding student attendance, and Policy 621 literacy and the READ Act. From the time that we did bring these forward in July, we have not heard of any questions regarding these policies. I can speak to Policy 507.5 regarding school resource officers. Again, really aligning that policy to the Minnesota State statute.
I thank Executive Director Mattson for presenting the first reading of these policies in my absence in July. Policy 503 was work around student attendance, making sure that we were aligned to the MSBA model policy. Really just making sure that we're adding the religious observance accommodation for our families, and then including the required component, the required reporting component. And then, as you know, we're deep into the READ Act already. This is making sure that we get policy 621 in place, literacy and the READ Act, following the Minnesota law that was established, and including those three components, the local literacy plan, literacy training, and staff development around the READ Act.
Thank you. This is a second reading, and we will, if there are any questions or comments?
Tanya, what's the cycle on updating the literacy plan for this policy? I'm not remembering. Is it every 3 years?
The local literacy plan is updated annually. Yep, yearly.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so at the next board meeting in September, we will go ahead and get the third reading and vote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It says first reading up there. Second reading, or does it mean the first reading and now we're doing the second?
Yes, yep.
Thank you
Thank
for the
you.
clarification.
I asked it, thanks.
Good catch, Dave. All right, I will need a motion to move into closed session, 9.3.
So move.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you, everyone.
What if like nobody else wanted to close the meeting, could one person just declare it closed?
That's why we ask if we have any questions or comments. Yeah. Terry told us that we didn't have to, but we can definitely look at that. Okay, so we're back in open session, and we are, we do have an action item for Pursuant, sorry, I don't have my glasses. So this is on the master agreement for support staff 9.4. I would entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? I know, Angie, that's what we do. Is there, yes, is there any additional discussion or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried 6-0. I now ask for an adjournment. All those in, or is there a motion?
So move.
So is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.